I'm ranking all of the legends in Apex from who's the most boring to play to who's the most fun. Starting off at number 1, Gibraltar. Gibraltar is my least favorite legend to play. He feels slow and clunky, and although I know he doesn't actually move slower than the other legends, he's a huge target, and this is because of his large hitbox. Now, Gibby only feels decent to play if you're playing with 2 friends and you truly want to embrace the supportive role. Solo queuing with Gibby is usually a disaster for me. Now, I will say Gibby has a pretty high 1v1 rate because of his gun shield and the potential use of his bubble, but overall, for me, he's very boring to play as. That doesn't mean he's not a strong legend though. Next at number 2 is Seer. Now, I don't think I've seen much of Seer ever since the latest nerfs that he received, and he currently has the lowest pick rate among all of the legends, and this truly signals where Seer is at. The only reason why he's not the most boring legend to play right now for me is because at least he doesn't have a huge hitbox like Gibby does. But yeah, I won't be playing any Seer for the near future. It's too bad that this legend released kind of doomed from the get-go. He was OP at first, then they tuned him back. Then he was kind of under the radar, then he ramped up again, and a lot of players started realizing how good he was. Then they tried to nerf him, and then nerf him again, and then nerf him for the 3rd time. And he's just kind of been in this problematic state ever since he came out, in one way or another. Number 3 is Watson, and I know all of the Watson mains are going to be up in arms about this placement, but just remember, this is my opinion at the end of the day. However, why I have Watson so low on this list is really just because I don't enjoy the use of her abilities. Having to fence up and make sure that you've protected a specific angle with her fences just kind of feels lackluster. There are times where connecting the fences just don't work as well as something as simple as a catalyst Q or a caustic trap. Now, it definitely is satisfying and funny when a player walks into a Watson fence and you're able to get a 1-clip. And she also does have a very small hitbox, which does help for 1v1 battle, but overall, she is not one of my favorite legends to play. Coming in at number 4 is Rampart, and I know the Rampart mains aren't going to be happy about this one either, but Rampart to me is just not really a fun legend to use. She can be funny to use because when you beam somebody with Sheila, especially behind a door or something, yeah, that is funny and it's satisfying. But if you're trying to be serious with her, I just don't feel like she's that valuable. Placing her walls down feel kind of awkward. You know, there's certain times where they can come in handy, but if you're trying to use them in every single fight, it feels like a lot of times they can backfire. And honestly, part of it feels like you need to think so much about the use of her walls and her abilities that you kind of just lose the concept of being in an FPS and fighting. Rampart has always been sort of an odd fit in Apex, and she's never really had an extremely high pick rate, but for all those reasons, I have her pretty low on this list. Coming in at number 5 is Valkyrie, and Valkyrie feels pretty lackluster these days. A huge reason for this is not only has she been nerfed over the past year quite a bit, but also the addition of these evac towers have sort of rendered her ultimate kind of useless. It's not to say the Valkyrie can't come in handy, or if you're using a Valkyrie it's different than the evac. It's just that with how common evac towers are, it definitely takes away a lot of the power that Valkyrie once had before they were added into the game. And then when you move down the line and you think about her passive, well, that is okay, but it's not nearly as good as it once was. The jet fuel runs out pretty quickly, and the flying doesn't feel as useful as some of the other mobility mechanics in the game. Coming in number 6, we have Ashe. Ashe is a very weak legend right now. She needs a lot of buffs. Not really sure when they'll come or if they'll ever come, but Apex did address this from a recent Reddit AMA from about a month ago. We'll see what comes for Ashe, but ultimately, like, her tactical doesn't move the mark much. Players can really just do whatever even if they get hit by her tactical. And her ultimate is the best part about her kit, but even that isn't that strong. It can be fun to portal on teams and be aggressive with, but sometimes it doesn't work as intended. So she's definitely not the most boring legend to play, but she's far from being one of the most fun legends to play. Coming in at number 7 on the list is Crypto. And while most would expect Crypto to be one of the most boring legends to play in the game, I can't completely agree with that. When I play Crypto, sometimes it's just like playing a legend that doesn't have any abilities. What I mean is that in a lot of situations, Crypto's abilities may not mesh with constant gun battles. So in turn, I may end up using his abilities a little bit less and less than some of the other legends. Now, this can be challenging, but in a rewarding way that doesn't make him super boring. Of course, when I use his abilities, primarily the EMP, depending on the situation, it can be effective. But in conclusion, Crypto isn't a super strong legend, but you can have some fun with him. Number 8 is Newcastle, and now Newcastle is fun for a couple reasons. First is the ridiculous revives that you can pull off with him. If you're playing with friends, this is bound to end in some laughs. Sometimes pulling off a crazy revive in the middle of a fight and then winning that fight solely because his revive was goes unstoppable is all you need to have fun in Apex. The second reason, though, is his ultimate. This can be fun to take high ground and pounce to areas that other legends would struggle getting to. Now, the downsides are he's a supportive legend and he's a big legend like Gibby, so he's not the most fun legend to solo queue with, but if you've got some friends, I think he's way more fun to play than Gibby. Next up is Catalyst, and ever since she received some nerfs, she hasn't been as fun to play. Not that she was ever super fun to play, but she was viable, and I think that played into her fun factor. I understand why they had to adjust some of her abilities because, frankly, some of the ways her tactical worked was kind of ridiculous compared to some of the other defensive or controller legends. If you're looking for a viable controller pick, she's definitely up there, but if you're looking to have a ton of fun with her, I'm not really sure you'll get there with Catalyst. Coming in at number 10 is Lifeline. Now, Lifeline is not a very strong legend, and there are some rumors that she's going to be getting reworked. We don't know when that's coming. But the reason I have Lifeline in the middle of this list is because of her small hitbox and her smooth animations. You know, things like running, sliding, jumping. All of these things, coupled with her small hitbox, make for a decent time, even without really factoring in her abilities. I do think her tactical right now is probably the best part about her kit. Yeah, the quick revive is decent, but a lot of times it's just not going to work out. Her ultimate can feel very lackluster, especially if you're playing fairly aggressive and you've already found the loot that you need. So it's really her tactical that can kind of move the mark in fights, you know, get that additional health, whether you just finished a fight or it's throughout a fight, but it really comes down to her hitbox for me. Oh, and she also has one of the better heirlooms in the game as well. At number 11, I have Bloodhound, and the main reason I have Bloodhound here is because of the ultimate. Getting that speed boost, seeing enemies highlighted in red, this is a fun ability to use in fights for sure. Other than that, I don't really think Bloodhound is that fun to play, especially since Bloodhound isn't really in the meta, but Bloodhound is certainly still a viable pick these days and can be very helpful for newer players when they're trying to get a grasp on where their enemies are at with the Bloodhound scan. Number 12 is Revenant, and this is going to be a hot take because Revenant Reborn has been very popular when compared to what Revenant was before this. But I just don't really like the new abilities. The extra HP and the Shadow Pounce, which feels very similar to Vantage's tactical, they're really not my thing. I still enjoy Revenant's passive, the climb and the crouch walk, but I kind of enjoyed the old Revenant better than the new Revenant. And I know this will be very unpopular because I can see Revenant's pick rate and a lot of people have been playing him. But the additional health points as the ultimate is kind of a ridiculous concept. Number 13 is Vantage, and I think Vantage is a pretty fun legend. The only reason though I have her this high up is because of her sniper. When you hit a few consecutive shots with this, downing an enemy or just tilting the fight totally in your team's favor, it can be pretty satisfying. Her tactical could use some slight adjustments, as I've mentioned previously, but really it comes down to the sniper. Now, I'm not going to get on the bandwagon and say that she's a very, very strong legend because she's not in the meta and she has a pretty low pick rate. However, she still can be kind of fun when you're griefing people with the sniper. Alright, now I'm getting into some of the more fun legends to play. At number 14, I have Loba, and Loba's a pretty simple legend. She's not very difficult to play, especially for new players, and she can offer a few different aspects to the game. Being the only support legend with a mobility tactical and having the ultimate for gathering loot for her and her squad mates are all helpful features. Not to mention, she can obviously craft banners if teammates go down and out. There's not a ton to say, she's a pretty fun legend, but let's move on to number 15. I've got Ballistic. I actually think Ballistic is a fun legend. While he's certainly not top tier in the meta right now, his ultimate is really fun to use. Faster everything, a gold weapon, and it can benefit your teammates. I mean, it's super fun to use this while fighting. I wish it lasted a little bit longer or something slight was added to it, but I do enjoy Ballistic. His tactical is also pretty funny to use when you overheat an enemy's weapon and then you one-clip them because they're gun jams. I would like to see some small buffs for Ballistic though. Coming in at number 16, I have Conduit, and Conduit is the newest legend as of the making of this video, and it's fair to say she's been a very popular hit. While she may be frustrating at times to go up against, she still provides a ton of value for her team. Conduit is a support legend at her core, but she's proven to be a pretty fun and dynamic pick. I don't know what it is about her animations, but she feels very fluid to move around with. Her tactical can benefit her and her teammates, and her ultimate is pretty ridiculous with the amount of space that it can cover. So overall, pretty fun legend to play, not so fun to play against. Okay, coming in at number 17 is Caustic. While a lot of you won't get this one and definitely won't agree with it, griefing with Caustic Gas can be extremely fun to do in Apex. And yes, he's a big legend and he feels super slow, but if you're fighting in any area that has some cover or just in a building, Caustic is great and he has a lot of outplay at his disposal here. This can result in 1v2s or 1v3s, and that's fun to pull off. Some will say this is biased because I have a lot of kills as the gas man, but literally this is an opinionated video. So yeah, there's no 100% 100% objective ranking out there on who's the most fun to who's the most boring. But I think a lot of people would agree that Caustic is the most fun to play when you compare him against all of the other bigger legends. At number 18, I have Mirage, and if you think tricking enemies is fun, then you will love Mirage. The constant confusion you can create as Mirage can be fun to pull off in Apex. With all of his abilities being on such a short cooldown, you may feel like they aren't super powerful, but the good news is you'll get a lot of opportunities to use them. Plus, they most recently made it so his decoys won't just completely glitch out and disappear if they run into something awkwardly. This was a bug for many seasons, and I'm glad they finally fixed it. At 19, I have Mad Maggie. I love playing Maggie. All of her abilities have a cool way of working off one another. I enjoy shotguns, so her passive is helpful. The riot drill can be a great tactical and is satisfying when it can help you out in a fight. And her wrecking ball is funny to knock enemies around with. If you've watched my content before though, then you'll know her ultimate is inconsistent, and I believe it should be altered so that it makes a little bit more sense. But when it does what it's supposed to, this ability is funny to mess around with. Alright, now we're moving into the top 5. These are the 5 most fun legends to play in my opinion. At number 20, I have Fuse, and Fuse is a menace. Fuse is the only legend in the game where all of his abilities center around dealing damage. It's a bit of a meme, honestly. A lot of Fuses just like to sit back and knuckle cluster and then launch the Ring of Fire and be completely useless. But you can have a great time with Fuse because he's the ultimate griefer. A lot of players love the Australian accent and the personality of Fuse as well because he's a very fun legend. While he may not be the strongest legend overall, he's a really fun legend to just mess around with, and you can find some success with Fuse as well. At 21, I have Wraith. Now, Wraith is very popular in Apex because of her dynamic abilities, her small hitbox, and her smooth animations. That's the facts. While some might not think her abilities are that good anymore, she's still a unique legend, especially because of her tactical. This can allow for a quick reposition, and ultimately may help you stay alive much longer than if you were on any of the other legends. Now, another aspect that makes her fun is the skill gap in learning the timing of her tactical and the nuances of her portal. Despite all of the ups and downs that Wraith has seen over the years, she's still always remained a popular pick. At number 22, we have Octane. Stim fast, jump pad, what's there not to like? Octane is very popular among a lot of players, particularly new ones, because they just like the simplicity of his abilities. Going fast, hitting the jump pad, and then there are some more unique advanced movement techniques that play off of his jump pad as well. You may not be the most strong legend, but this is about having fun at the end of the day, so Octane's right up there. At number 23, I have Bangalore. Now, strong legends that have simple abilities make for fun legends, and Bangalore is this 100%. I remember Bangalore was the first legend that I really played a lot of when I was new to Apex, and this was because of how simple her abilities were. Now, it turns out the ways in which her abilities would be used are really everything, because a bad smoke can screw you and your teammates over more than you think, but early on I had very little understanding of all of the abilities. So Bangalore was a great option for me. And nowadays, she's dominating the legend meta, so she's a fun legend to play, but she can be a bit annoying to go up against when you're constantly getting blinded by smokes. Second to last, or second to first? Well, number 24 is Horizon. While Horizon is at the top when it comes to controversial legends at the moment, she still is one of the most fun legends to play. For most, I think it comes down to her tactical and her passive. No matter what movement you're doing, it just feels smooth because of her passive. Now, Apex has tried to nerf her several times and in several different ways, but it really hasn't deterred people from playing her. Horizon's also one of the more annoying legends to go up against these days, but she's still a very fun legend to play. But coming in at number 25, which is the most fun legend to play, is Pathfinder. Now, the reason Pathfinder's number 1 here is all because of the grapple. Learning the intricacies of the grapple is the most unique ability in the game. And if you're a fan of Titanfall, then you'll love Pathfinder. And yeah, his zipline can come in handy as well, but it's really all about the grapple. Swinging from buildings, off of the ground, pulling off some crazy movement techniques, all while flying through the air, and then styling on your enemies. I mean, yeah, this legend is a blast to play. But there are some definite tips that you're going to want to learn and incorporate if you're trying to get better with Pathfinder. And if you really want to improve with him or any of the other legends, well, I covered it all in this video here. Be sure to check it out next. Thanks for watching. Peace.